everybody, welcome to another episode of Talk the Talk. Today I'm driving Michael's F355 Berlinetta Ferrari. Now yes, this is the same Michael that we've had on the channel a fair few times before. As you know, if you've been following, he is more into his JDM cars, so more the tuner scene. But saying that, what little boy's dream isn't to own a Ferrari someday? And the 355 has a real special place in his heart, and he's always wanted one. Past 3.5 years, he's been the proud owner of this. Now, 355 Ferrari, what are we talking? 3.5 litre, flat plane crank V8 engine, 375 horsepower, so not breaking any records there whatsoever, and that's at 8,000 RPM, so this thing absolutely screams. Now, peak torque is 363 Nms of torque at 6,000 RPM. So it's not like your large displacement V8s where you got it from right down low, but she winds out, and listen to this. Oh, she absolutely sings. Now, first up, Michael, he's gone with the right color combo. Red with the cream interior works beautifully together and totally pops and complements each other. And Michael, as I said before, he's more into his JDM cars, so he couldn't help himself but modify this a bit. There's not a huge amount of aftermarket support for the supercars, but what he's done is he's put the Fab Speed headers on and also the Capristo aftermarket full exhaust system cap back. Now that is fucking expensive, but you gotta pay to play when you're messing around with these supercars, even if it's a 90s one and it's the baby supercar of the era for Ferrari. But again, I'm gonna be doing this a fair bit with this car because I've got one opportunity to do it. Let's listen to what $12,000 of an exhaust gets you. Well, there we go, we hit limiter, which is close to 9,000 RPM, I think. An otherwise decision from Michael. He's gone with the 6-speed manual transmission, and that is definitely the right choice for this car. Feels absolutely amazing while you go into the gears, and I drove the 308 GTS Ferrari a few years ago, and that had the gated shifter too, but this feels so much tighter, so much more precise as well. It's just a joy every time that you're actually shifting through those gears. And just rev matching is just beautiful. Revving up, little burble of the engine into the lower gear. Oh, and once you hit, after about 4.5 grand, she sounds amazing again, and just all the way to redline. Now, this being the earlier 355, a 1995 model, it had a few variances to the later ones. One which I absolutely think they made a mistake with, but for safety reasons I had to put an airbag in. This airbagless steering wheel, the 3-spoke one from factory, I think looks a lot sexier than the later ones, especially when they went the 4-spoke with the airbag and end up looking like they call the briefcase steering wheel. But this one even better again. Michael's gone a smaller one, so 350 millimeter, sorry. So he's actually gone for a 330 millimeter diameter steering wheel, which is actually a detachable one as well. So there's a little nod to the JDM scene from him. The original one is 355 millimeters in diameter. Just smaller wheels, it always feels a lot more nicer, especially when you're out here in these twisty roads. And another thing that the early cars had, which being 90s supercar, they just don't fucking make sense sometimes. It had 2 of everything in the engine bay. So you had 2 fuel pumps, 2 ECUs, 2 AFMs. You were essentially running 2 4-cylinder engines side by side in sync with each other. So for the Series 2 355, they ended up going to 1 ECU, 1 fuel pump, 1 AFM, which makes a lot more sense. But you know, Ferrari doesn't really think about their owners when it comes to maintenance and when things start to fuck up with these cars now, do they? Another change that Michael's actually made to this car as well, He's gone with the 355 Challenge rear mesh. So it lets the engine breathe a lot more, gets all that heat extracted out of the engine bay. The standard 355 rear plate at the back, so to say, looks a little bit plasticky, but the black mesh, like I said, makes it look tougher, and it's a bit of a nice contrast as well instead of red, especially when you got those twin tail lights at the back, which are, you guessed it, red again. Now let's see what this baby's like around the twisties. Car's worth about 300 grand, so I'm not gonna go too crazy with it. But as I said, got an opportunity to drive this car, I'm gonna do it right. Ooh. You know what, for something that doesn't have that much torque, it actually feels amazing. It's probably about half the amount of torque that I've got in the Supra, but it just sings, and I thought it was gonna feel a lot more weak. A lot more peaky as well, going towards the top end, but oh man, it just really delivers beautifully. And I got a guy in front of me going about 40 k's an hour, so absolutely perfect opportunity to drive a Ferrari like this, not ruining my day at all. Okay, let's go for it. Let's see what this thing is like around the corners, heavy braking, revving her out a bit, and sweating my ass off because this is a very expensive car and I don't want to ride it off. But we're going to keep it under the speed limit and legal, but we're going to have a little bit of fun. Oh, that gated shifter. Look, it takes you a while to actually get it into gear because you have to go to neutral and then select your gear, but once it's in, it feels great, and really the torque is quite instant when you get back onto it. As I said before, I thought, see, I misshifted, almost went to fourth. See, as good as I am, people, I'm not the best. Going around the corner, quite flat through here as well. Comfortable, but flat, so it's not too harsh. This is a rear-mounted engine car, so I don't want the arse to be sliding out of me and ending up in a tree, but this actually feels great. I told Michael that I would take care of his baby for him, which I am, but I was a lot more worried until I actually got into this car, because it is actually so easy to drive, and easy to drive hard as well. Yes, given this isn't a track, so I'm not going as fast, but these roads aren't the best things in the world. They're only as good as a public road is going to be. But there we go, I'm hovering between 5 and 7 grand for most of this. And you don't have to wind her right out to redline to actually feel the power and get all the juices rushing. So here we'll go, we'll rev out a little bit more, keep it in second, just off, back into it, into third. Shitty shift from me again because of the gated shifter. Yeah, feeling pretty incompetent. Okay, let's do that again. That's embarrassing. Second gear, wind it all the way out, 8,000, third. These brakes feel great as well. I'm not actually sure how large the brakes are, how many pot, what the diameter of these rotors are. Brakes aren't fading at all. Going into the corner, very flat. There we go, going out of it. Again, very agile. This is a really fun car. I thought it was gonna kind of disappoint me, honestly, because I looked at the specs, I'm like, yeah, it's not really that great. Under 400 horsepower, 363 N's of torque, that's nothing. But she sings. I thought it was just gonna be all noise, all looks and no go, but really, really delivers the good stuff. Oh man, and you get a little bit of a crackle of the exhaust as well. I've totally lost Michael. He's in my Nissan X-Trail behind me, so I'm sure he's probably a little bit worried, but he trusts me. I hope he trusts me. Oh, we'll find out. So the 355 Ferrari down here in Australia, going back about 10 years, was a very affordable supercar. So they went below $100,000. You could pick one up for about 90 grand. And at that stage, I was thinking to myself, oh shit, I'll just sell the two cars that I have, put about 30 grand on top, and I'll enjoy a supercar. And look, at one stage I was thinking about getting the MR2s that they convert over to the 355s, but why not get a real one? And for that price there as well, it's quite a bargain. Bargain until you get to the maintenance costs. And oh my God, Michael, he's had this car for 3.5 years, as I said before. And you know, it got quite pricey. He did a major service, and there's a few things that previous owners decided to avoid because, as I said, it gets a little bit costly. Now, guess how much it cost Michael when he first took this to the shop? Thought he'd do a little bit more work that hadn't been done before, and $30,000 fucking dollars. That's 1/3 of the price of what I was considering to buy one for 10 years ago. Imagine that. Get that, try to enjoy it. Oh my God, here's your bill, bend over. Jesus Christ. Okay, it doesn't get that bad after that. Last year he did the annual service and it ended up being $10,000. $10,000. Again, a few little bugs that come up. It's getting to be a bit of an old car now, but oh my God, supercar maintenance, even when you're talking baby supercar and a little bit older, so there's less electronics and there's less this and that, it is expensive. As I said, you really gotta pay to play with these things, but the payoff, I'm gonna do it again. I'm just finding excuses to rev the shit out of this thing. Ah, beautiful. Michael's behind me. I hope he really doesn't mind that I keep slowing down and just redlining this thing, but he said to enjoy it, and I said, look, I'll take it easy, but you know what? I'm respecting it like I respect my cars. You gotta just, yeah, play around with it, have a little bit of fun. Really, these cars were made to be driven, and that's what Michael does as well. He drives this thing. So every opportunity he gets, even though he's had close to 2 years of lockdown with this thing, and within those 2 years, 12 months it was off the road, so he couldn't even drive it in between. The times that he's driven it, he's properly enjoyed it. You know, just go out, go up the mountain, enjoy it. It's not about going up and down the street and just on a Sunday morning, somebody seeing you while they're having their coffee. He wants to get it out on these roads and just do what these things were made to do. Drive them, enjoy them, and sometimes be very cheeky in them. Okay, now I'm gonna go a little bit Doug DeMuro on your ass. Let's talk about the quirks and features. Now, the pedals, the position, horrible. All the way over to the left, which look, you get used to it after you're driving it a bit. But if you've got long leg, it does become quite frustrating that to brake, you're having to put your knee under the center of the steering wheel. It gets quite low. Now, next thing, the door sills, they're actually wide as. I got some footage here actually showing how wide they are when you're climbing over to get into the car. Third thing, door handles on the outside of this car. There are none that you can actually visibly see. It's inside that huge scoot there, which looks so sexy and actually has a use as well for the airflow. And on the inside as well, when you put your doors open, there's actually a handle here on top of the handle that you pull up. Storage space, no cup holders, because supercars of the 90s and fuck you. Up front, there's actually a fair bit of storage space. You can actually fit a Chinaman in there. Yes, a Chinaman. I don't know if you fit an Italian in there, maybe a little Italian, maybe like a Sicilian or something like that. But hey, it's more storage space than a lot of supercars from this era and going forward as well. Another quirky thing that Michael actually told me Doug DeMuro got wrong, which I haven't watched his video on this car, but the suspension, it's not actually sports mode where it's got the suspension and it has the S on there. It's actually soft. So you got your standard and then your softer setting, and that there, it's not like the Magneto ride or whatever they call it. I don't know newer cars. It's got an adjuster on the top, just like your Cusco 02Es, for example, and it electronically adjusts the damper on the suspension. Michael said, when you take it for a drive, what you do, put the windows down, just listen to it. Really listen to it open up. He said, don't go through the drive windows up. He's like, I know the microphone, whatnot. He's like, just enjoy it. So let's see what it's, oh my God, fuck, it's already so much louder. Okay, okay. Oh, here we go. Here's the long straight that we usually do the high speed run on. High speed 100 k's an hour, just like a 0 to 100. I'm not going to drop the clutch. Anyway, let's go for it. I'll just roll it. I do not want to fuck this clutch up. And let's go. Oh my God, yes! Oh! Oh my God, I'm hot, I'm cold, I'm confused, I don't know. Oh my God, I identify as a Ferrari. Oh, that is amazing, it is gorgeous. Man, you know what, if these things weren't so expensive to maintain and they weren't so expensive to buy now, I would love one of them. But for now, I'll just have to settle for thrashing the crap out of someone else's Ferrari.
Hello, this is my childhood dream car. 1995 F355 gated manual. In terms of ownership, I've had this for 3.5 years now. And to give you a bit of an idea what it's like to own, all of those YouTube videos about expensive ownership, expensive running costs, they're very true. Servicing was probably the most painful part of the car. In terms of buying one, when I bought this, I actually bought it sight unseen. Very bad habit, don't do that. The car looked really good on paper, so it had all paperwork, a full folder of receipts, and every service was completed on time. But only now have I realized the books can look good, but not necessarily all the work that it needs has been done. So what happened with this car was it had the engine out every 3 years as required, but when the engine was out, the most ridiculous thing was all the little small things that should be changed while the engine's out weren't. For example, bushings, all of the suspension arm bushings, engine mounts, transmission mounts. Obviously rubber parts all degrade over time and they all cracked. So when I had the engine out, I basically have to redo every single rubber piece within the engine bay. It was all dry rotted. So you can see why these would catch fire quite often. Fuel hoses, when they get old, they're gonna crack, start leaking straight onto the manifolds, and that's probably why you see a lot of these burning on YouTube. But yeah, this one's now sorted at very great cost. But in the end, you can't put a price on a dream. Other things to add about owning the car, probably the driving experience. You don't need me to tell you that it's an old school experience. I mean, I put in a timber steering wheel to make it even more old school. This car had the 3-spoke from factory. I took that off just to protect it, but also it was sitting a bit too far away from me, so it's canted away and you feel like you're driving a bus. With an aftermarket wheel, you can bring it closer to you, and it actually improved the feeling of the car, because the steering rack in this is very, very slow. First time they did power steering, so it wasn't great. Modifications, it is modified. It's got Fab Speed headers and a Capristo catback. I saw Matt Farah's review and I thought that's the exhaust sound that I wanted. And the good thing about these is because the factory manifolds are known to be troublesome, when you change them, people don't look down on that as a modification, they look at that as a preventative maintenance. Driving experience is not great compared to my Japanese cars. I mean, look, RX-7s and GTRs from the same era, they definitely handle better. And GTRs in particular, I feel is probably better built than this. The whole thing about this is the theatre. The engine and the noise that it makes, the clicking of the gated shifter. So when you're driving it around, you're absorbed by theatre, but you're not really 100% in control like you would be an equivalent Japanese car from that era.
Michael, as much as this has been a childhood dream of his, and besides all the maintenance costs and all the headaches. He has enjoyed this car as much as I have just now. He says it's absolutely amazing and great to drive, but he wants to tick a few more things off his list. So he's actually got this thing for sale at the moment, and this definitely isn't a sales pitch video. He said to me, he's like, look, he's like, if you mention it's for sales, like, I don't want it to sound like a big sales pitch. And like I said, I've mentioned that the specs of this car aren't amazing. I've mentioned that it is very expensive to maintain, although he has done a lot of the hard work, so for near future there's not going to be anything to worry about. So yeah, definitely not a sales pitch, mate. I'm not buying it. Fuck, I don't have 300 grand. But I really do appreciate that before he put it up for sale, he's like, look, he's like, you have to do the video. Thanks heaps for letting me do it, man. As with all your cars, I appreciate you letting me drive it. And over the years, me and Michael have actually become real close mates as well. So it was probably actually after the first time we met, we're just car nuts, and we pretty much just talk cars non-stop, catch up with each other, we talk cars, we message each other, we talk cars. And look, I'm sure that everyone watching this video is very similar as well. It just runs through their blood. And I hope that I've been able to give you guys the experience as well of driving a 355 Berlinetta with the Fab Speed headers and a Capristo exhaust. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.